Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan M.S. Pierce. And not for the first time, I'm joined today by James, except James is not the James we once knew him. He's a different James. At least he is doing similar things in different places with different people. And he's going to talk us through that journey. We're going to talk about a number of things. There might be questions I ask James that he will not be able to answer. And so he will say, I can't answer that, OPSEC. And I fully expect that to happen. But it's great to be joined by James after so long of not talking to him. James, welcome back to the channel, my friend.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I am proud to say I am now a soldier in Azov, in Azov Corps, 12th Brigade, 3rd International Battalion.
Can you talk us through, actually, this is a weird place to start, I guess. Can you talk us through a brigade and a battalion and what the difference is?
Sure. So Ukraine just recently converted over to a corps system, whereas before all they had was brigades.
What does that mean, the corps system?
Right. So the corps is the largest unit within the Ukrainian army, essentially. Now, some other armies will have divisions mixed up in there as well. So it'd be like corps, division, and then brigade. So a brigade is a smaller unit of, something like, let's numbers are a little bit fluid here in Ukraine. Let's say 1,000 soldiers. Okay. And then within the brigade, you have battalions, and they can be, between 300 and 500 at their maximum. Although oftentimes, again, battalions in the Ukrainian armed forces are much smaller, like less than half that size. And then within the battalion, you have companies, and a company would be like 75 people up to 100, maybe. On the positive. Now,
attrition can do wonders to numbers, right?
You could have a company it's like 15 guys. But then below the company, you have the word for company is rota. So I sometimes use the word rota because sometimes when I'm talking about my company, people think I'm with a startup or something. So and then below that, you have usually like a platoon. We might call it like a team. Okay. And then the basic level that especially Azov uses is like a 4 to 5 man squad. You can think of that. So when we're talking about drone teams, assault teams, sometimes we use that word a little bit fluidly. But yeah, it's
that's really useful. I mean, I did know that stuff for the record, but I think it's really useful for the audience to make sure that we understand what you mean. And we so often, actually, I get confused between brigade and battalions quite often.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, so many.
Me too.
Yeah, going on in my head. Okay, so you weren't with Azov originally. Do you want to talk us through, for those who don't know you, just talk us rather quickly, I guess, through your journey into the armed forces?
Well, I've lived here in Ukraine for 6 years. So I moved here in 2019 from the United States, and I wanted to move to Europe. And after I left NASA, I just needed to take a break from the US and maybe from the IT work I did previously. And so I kind of traveled around Europe, and the mistake that I think I made was I should have come to Ukraine first instead of spending all my money in the rest of Europe first. And then, I really had, when the war started, the full-scale invasion, I really had, to me, just, the perfect life, a nice apartment, decent apartment, nothing too crazy, job, work that I liked, enough money, a girlfriend. We got married the weekend before the war, actually.
Wow. Yeah.
And because I knew something was coming, and I wanted to make sure we had, some sort of official relationship. And then the war started. I did not have a military background. My background is in IT, wireless communications, and fiber optic, that sort of thing, which now you listen now and it's like, whoa, that's exactly what everybody wants. But
well, actually, one of my questions is going to be like, what of your previous expertise has been useful
Mm-hmm.
in what you're doing now. But we'll come to that, I guess, in a
Yeah,
second.
yeah. And so left Kyiv because I wanted to get my wife to a safe place, and we ended up going to her parents, which is where my home is now. I got COVID, like long COVID on the bus, the minibus, the marshrutka, out of Kyiv, and got very very sick for the first 2-3 months of the war, and so by the time I was well enough to go and try and join a unit, which I did many and multiple times, nobody wanted me. No military experience. Get out of here. Um, can't speak good Ukrainian. Get out. So so finally, I actually did get accepted into the Legion, the International Legion in 2023, and was completely unprepared for that because I had I'd given up. I'd applied like 10 times to every unit. I apologize for the light flickering, by the way. The place where I'm at is it's not a safe place, okay? And
Yeah.
it's there's power issues and things like that. But yeah, so got injured in training in the Legion. Blew out my back, dislocated my wrist, and had to spend a year of therapy. Uh, before I could come back. So anyway, so last year, about this time last year, um, got in touch with through my YouTube channel. That's the whyukraine.com that you see here. And there's a reason I have that up and not Azov International Battalion. But yes, so this is the link to support my battalion, which is the Azov International Battalion. So that's Azov Corps 12th Special Purpose Brigade, 3rd International Battalion. Now, there is an Azov International Battalion website that you can go to, and definitely check that out. And there is a link on there that you can support Azov, but it's not, yeah, there you go. That's it. And if someone was interested in coming to fight, to sign up with the Azov International Battalion, this is where you would want to go. And there is a link there to support. And that's great too if people want to support that. It kind of goes into a big bucket. And whereas the link off of the whyukraine.com site there goes directly to our battalion only, not like all of Azov. If you want to support all of Azov, that's great too. Yeah. So yeah. So I linked up with a strictly a drone unit, and originally it was a drone company, like a rota, and then this was that was called Birds of Fury or Zlip Tahi, Angry Birds. So
I delivered a vehicle to
yes,
them.
you did.
I handed one over
Yes.
in Kiev when I was there the second time round and was at one of the NAFO handovers. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I spoke to them. It's really cool.
I remember, and I wasn't there for that, but one of my commanders was able to pick it up, and it's so incredibly useful because even before I was in the military, I had my own kind of YouTube channel, which is of course dead now, but the drone guys that I talked to then would say, well, what we need drones, but before we need drones, we need vehicles because we need to be able to drive to the location where we're going to launch the drones. And if we don't, it's the biggest in my drone team as well. So it's a huge issue, and it's something that we're going to address and are going to be addressing. So
yeah, I mean, I at the moment I'm fundraising with Jiggers Paul, where we're getting an ATV for the 80th Air Assault Brigade, but then I'm going back to do some fundraising for Christmas time with Car for Ukraine, who get vehicles to these groups as well, and then NAFO's always there too. So yeah, it is all about getting vehicles.
Yeah.
People that need
We have one Car for Ukraine vehicle, and we always need more. You have to understand that vehicles are getting blown up all the time.
Yeah.
Also, and I mean, even in the middle of like town, just a regular town,
Yeah.
driving down the road. Also, the places that we have to drive to deploy the drones to our positions and things, the roads look like the dark side of the moon,
Yeah.
and that's terribly hard on the vehicles. Um, and then
So going back to your first point, I mean,
yeah.
I remember I think it was Kramatorsk, I
Yeah.
saw a vehicle, it must have been a month ago. And
Mhm.
Kramatorsk, for those who don't know, is somewhat close to the front line in the east, but it's
Depending
like
on
the
how you
fortress.
measure it can be anywhere from like 20 kilometers, and at the lowest point, I think it's less than 10 kilometers.
And there was this, I remember this black SUV that was in the middle of town and it was hit by a drone. And then that was like one of these worrying moments where, like, oh my goodness, they are hitting vehicles in the middle of Kramatorsk. So
It was a
yeah, as you
Mitsubishi
say,
L200,
yeah,
actually, pickup truck with a cover on the back,
yeah,
and I believe the driver survived. Actually,
yeah,
I I travel all over the East
yeah,
for my work, and I have been to that very place where that
right,
occurred.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, scary times. Yeah, yeah. So so you were saying they get destroyed by drones, obviously directly, and war in general, but also driving probably crazy fast, trying to
Oh
escape
my God.
drones or
Yeah, minimum
getting
like 100 miles an hour, 160 kilometers an hour on these roads that are like the surface of the moon.
yeah.
And the drone nets, I mean, the drone nets are good, but there are holes and
I shared a
gaps.
video this morning of a Russian drone dropping thermite on a road with drone nets. It's
Yep.
something that we had suggested when we first heard about drone nets. Actually, like, oh, I would just go and drop that thermite on it, and lo and behold, they're doing it. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for making holes, and to an extent it works.
Mm.
It's a cat and mouse game, really.
Yep. Yep.
Continues to be.
Mm.
So yeah, so kind of started with a purely drone company that then became a battalion, the 423rd Scythian Griffins,
Mm.
um, and I was with them until May of this year. So I did 6 months with them, but basically, I mean, I basically the minute that I heard about Azov International Battalion, I
Yeah.
was like applying on the website, trying to call him on the phone, whatever, and got an interview and was accepted. But then I had to wait till I hit my 6 months, so I could break contract.
And
And
around the time, like when I was over there in February this year, you gave me, oh no, wrong way. You gave me
oh
this
yes,
flag
yeah,
from the
yeah,
63rd.
in the 63rd, yeah, and they are operating in the east as well.
Ah,
They're around in that area. In particular, they've had some really good success. I want to say up in like the Liman area this past summer, um, where they were using caltrops. I don't know if you remember
yeah,
those reports. So
yeah.
yeah,
Right
using
throughout the war,
caltrops.
actually, at different times, they suddenly like they're using caltrops again, dropping them from Mavics or whatever. So
Exactly.
caltrops are those kind of, if you play jacks or whatever, they're like mini versions of the tank obstacles, but like yay big, and they puncture tires, right?
Yeah, yeah, and so it stops the vehicle, whatever the
Mm,
vehicle is, and they have different size ones for like motorcycles versus the larger, Humvee size, whatever the
mm,
Russians are using, those bread loaf vans, um, and stops the vehicle, and then a lot, especially the vehicles that look like the Mad Max cope cages, which are both sides are using, by the way,
yeah, yeah, for sure.
but it might take 10, 20 drones to punch through all that stuff. Better to stop the vehicle and make that a
Do it at
non-moving
your
target.
leisure. Yeah, you can like we
Exactly.
can hit that 15 times, and we can do that over 3 hours because 10
Exactly.
hours, who cares? It
Exactly.
can't move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the drone battalion, in the Scythian Griffins, I start off. I worked in like Intel and then the fixed wing fixed wing bomber drones, actually, like mid-range fixed
Right.
wing bomber drones.
So bomber, not kamikaze. So they were.
No.
What were they dropping then?
Like mortar rounds,
Right.
basically, or
And
other whatever else they could,
what
different
drones were
mines.
these? What were the names? Did they have names? These fixed wing
Yeah,
ones.
it has well, the one that I worked on, that terrible name, is called the Backfire.
Right. I remember you mentioning them actually. Yeah, backfire
Yeah,
drones. Yeah.
yeah, but they really good, because they could fly without being piloted, so the range of like 60 kilometers or more, um, with basically like a pre-programmed flight.
Right.
And now there's a lot of drones coming out with variations on that theme. In this case, like that particular like Backfire is very faster than your average.
Is that it there?
Yeah, that's it. Yep, exactly. Launched from a yeah, actually, I know those guys. Launched from a catapult thingy, and I helped with those. And I worked in the repair shop, and then when sort of the battalion took over and it became more of a generalized drone uh, battalion, they kind of asked me like what I wanted to do, and I said that I think the biggest problem that the Ukrainian army has is actually with communications, both analog, like personal communication.
Right. Yeah.
and,
And the abstract idea. Yeah.
and yeah, like radio or digital communications. So if you have a drone position and the Starlink gets knocked out, either by an FPV or by radar or electronic warfare, which happens, now you have no way to stream those videos. You have no way to communicate with command, except radio, which you're not going to, especially, a big role that drones play still to this day is that ISR recon role. And so here in Azov, it's still primarily an infantry, by necessity. I mean, it began that way as an infantry unit, going all the way back to 2014, like the defense of Mariupol, but that's because they only had like 3 vehicles, and then because of the ill associations with Mustache Man, they they were prevented from having any access to Western
Course,
armaments.
yeah, because that was changed. I forget now, 6 months ago, maybe more, maybe a year ago. I can't remember when it
Yeah, I think
was.
about a year. I think about a
Yeah,
year.
it's
Yeah,
probably under
yeah.
Biden. That they allowed Azov to get to receive directly Western weapons, and that wasn't the case before. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
good point.
yeah. They worked very, very hard and to get that, but now it's almost become endemic to the brigade. You might say that people think of themselves as infantry. It's all about the infantry. So now remember over this past year, was it this past year? No, maybe it was earlier. Azov was kind of split right into Azov and then 3rd Assault Brigade. I guess that happened in 22. I don't remember. And so 3rd Assault Brigade, which is now 3rd Army Corps, some of them went and they took all of the Azov ideas, and they were Azov guys, and they start. So there's kind of a rivalry between
Right,
the
okay.
two.
Because they've both become different bases of cores, haven't they? So
Yes.
I think the 3rd Assault is a core,
Yeah.
and the way I understood it is they
Under
wanted
the
to
core
take the
system.
best operating units and say, right, we want them to be the center of these cores, and then they can train and swap best practices for the people, for the other units that get associated with them as a core. Kind of.
Exactly. This is the idea. It's a friendly rivalry, but I would argue that third Assault Brigade on the drone side, as far as integration of drone systems into infantry tactics, and especially integration of ground drones. Of course, we're talking about the Corps, so there's a lot of different battalions. Each battalion is doing different things, so it's a very generalized statement, but the general feeling is that Third Assault is a little bit ahead of us in that regard. And so there's a big push to catch up on the ground drones, especially. Third Assault this past like spring or late winter did an assault entirely composed of just drones.
I did my military aid news video yesterday, and there's a new one of these Ukrainian, was it Dev Droid or something like that, that's brought out a load of tracked drones with the machine guns on top, and they have this video of like 20 of them, and then they start moving forward. It's just like, yes, imagine, because it's all about replacing humans, so you don't attrit those valuable human resources with functionally the same thing but a piece of metal. So the more you can get these UGVs to do functionally the same as humans, although it's not going to be perfect and you still need boots on the ground, like the idea is there needs to be some kind of substitution because there are only limited human resources.
Well, I mean, that's obviously a big thing, but the argument is, and I have this discussion all the time, is you can't replace infantry. They do a unique job, and I think that is true. I think that there are just certain things that infantry assaulters specifically will always have to do. As far as like, okay, holding a position, there was recently an article that there was a ground drone that literally held a single position.
I shared this for like months and months, didn't it?
Yeah. So great for that. Great for laying down covering fire in support of assaults, infantry assaults. But is a ground drone going to jump into a trench and stab a guy? I don't think we're quite there yet.
Yeah.
So there's still definitely a need.
And then, of course, you've got the unmanned systems forces. Can you, because you'll be in a position to explain this, can you explain? So each brigade has its own drone teams in the brigade, maybe a whole drone unit, but then each unit as well will have its own drone capabilities too. So there might, am I right in saying a brigade will have drone units, like the standalone drone, I don't know what unit size you would call it, and then drones within infantry units, and then you've got the unmanned systems forces as a separate corps with Robert Brovdy doing stuff that he's now reporting on, these strikes deep into Russia. So he's doing all sorts of drone stuff.
And I would like to say that I'm heavily encouraged by seeing Mr. Magyar take over the unmanned systems forces. I think it should have been that way from the beginning, and I think it will be much more effective now. I kind of get the feeling, it's just my impression, that the unmanned systems forces got started, and then a bunch of like these old guard commanders who didn't know a drone from a doorknob somehow wheedled their way into the unmanned system forces because, oh, hey, if you are in the drone force, you don't have to go to the front line, right? So this was the case for, like in my previous battalion, not Azov, not the one I'm in right now, but in my previous battalion, when they started, I guess they were technically part of the ground forces, and then they got moved over to the unmanned system forces, and then moved back. It's very confusing. But they had like 500 people, and half of them were, they were supposed to be 500 good, solid drone guys. Half of them were like in some random, headquarters in Lviv, never touched a drone. The battalion commander shows up and they're all drunk or something. And he was so angry. And they basically had to kick half of the, about 250, 300 guys out of the battalion and just send them to the ground forces, because they were not drone material. at all.
Yeah.
And then they could start with kind of a good core of drone guys, which it was. By the time I left, it was pretty well running shop, pretty well organized.
So what do you do then on a kind of daily basis? What's your job, as much as you can tell us?
Right. So I'm technically my title is I'm head of the fiber optic drone laboratory for the battalion.
So I take it you're wearing a white coat every day and you're surrounded by test tubes.
If that would be lovely. That would be lovely.
Get me another coffee, please, Dr. Smith.
Yeah, if we had white coats, they would look like this after about a day.
Yeah.
Okay. I can tell you, when I first showed up, our laboratory was a garage. Okay. That's true for most drone units, actually. Just, random garage. And eventually we moved into a larger underground facility, but it was like full up to my waist with rubbish. We had to clear all that out. And then okay, now we need equipment, actually. And so actually Zigas Paw that you mentioned earlier with Preston Stewart did a big fundraiser for us. And we had to recruit more engineers, and now we've got 13 3D printers, I want to say.
Wow. Because actually, I don't want to get ahead of myself, because you haven't answered fully the question I last asked you.
First question, yeah.
Within that, you can maybe explain how you get your drones, whether you make them yourselves, whether you get them from charities, whether you buy them directly, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a catch-22. There's like a reward system.
The brave one sort of thing.
Yeah, the thing. Yeah. And so, the brigade gets the drones from the Corps and from the government, and based on how many kills you get, you get more drones, essentially.
Yeah.
If your drone is more effective, but in order to get more kills, you have to have more drones.
Yeah.
And so it's this is why we're doing this fundraiser on the whyukraine.com site, and that actually takes you to an Azov link. Is because we're kind of kickstarting this. Okay, we have all the pieces in place, and now we just need two things. we need more drones, number one, to increase our volume so that we can start getting more. And so that's the Azov 1 site. Now everything I'm doing here is through Azov 1, and it took a while to get approval, even to come on this show and to do this kind of a fundraiser. Azov 1's really good at fundraising within Ukraine. But I would say Ukrainians have a difficult time understanding why individual people, you YouTube viewer at home, why you want to help Ukraine. That's a hard thing for Ukrainians to understand. They can understand that, like, okay, NGOs, maybe nations want to help Ukraine, but like an individual working a regular job, just coming home, sitting on the couch and watching this YouTube channel.
And I'm wondering if this is the first kind of war where that's really happened, because of the
Yeah.
nature of social media, the nature of being able to express moral solidarity with people in immediate ways using things like YouTube, etc., that people are just invested in this and in all the ways that word means. Yeah.
It's I mean, it's a new thing for everybody. But especially for Ukrainians, I would say in Eastern, like, maybe it goes back all the way to some sort of like cultural difference with like Eastern Orthodox Christianity. I'm not really sure, but the the tradition of charity, right? That we have as Westerners in this like time of for America, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, New Year, that sort of thing is a little bit reduced in the Eastern Orthodox tradition. It's much more family based and kind of mystical and religious. The social idea of the charity and giving is to strangers, I mean,
Mm.
it's just different here. And so it's very surprising for them when someone walks up to them and just here you go, have this drone or have this EcoFlow or have this box of food or something. There's always
Mm.
a question like, what do you want? What are you trying to get out of this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It kind of breeds a little bit of suspicion.
Quid pro
So,
quo. Yeah.
yeah, because if somebody gives you something for free, it's like it leads to actually kind of mistrust in a way. So what I'm trying to do is really show them and build that trust, because I believe very strongly that the international battalion could become a real source of support for Azov and for Ukraine in general,
Mm.
because like about half of our unit are foreigners and Americans and people from every country, every Western country, many Asian countries. And I feel like if people knew uh, in their home countries how many of their sort of hometown heroes are here fighting for freedom and democracy for the world,
Mm.
you know and that's another big thing that Ukrainians don't always necessarily understand how. I mean, a lot of people don't understand how what's happening here in Ukraine is
Mm.
connected to the wider, as
Security
geopolitical,
architecture and
and
yeah.
yeah, and democracy and freedom around the world. Well, some do, and I would say more in Azov than most.
Mm.
Certainly, certainly, um, yeah. So what I'm doing is, yeah, so here's a problem that we have, right? You guys, your viewers, I'm sure, know what fiber optic drones
Yeah.
are. Okay. Um, you need specialized equipment to like connect the fiber and do all of this stuff with it. It's required. Um, Now, a big problem with these fiber optic drones is they have a very high failure rate. Okay. Even before they fly, they have a high failure rate, is what I mean.
Mm.
So, coming out of the box, okay, so coming from the manufacturer, they don't work the way they should. Okay, and there are some reasons for that. One reason is that, um, well, these are like bare fiber, less than the width of a human hair, right? It's this
Yeah.
bare fiber optic, and you're flying 10, 20 kilometers, right? Maybe across a lake or something, a river, through trees, and the fibers coming out this big spool. The stress on the fiber optic cable is incredible. And under those battlefield conditions, your regular like home internet fiber optic is just not going to cut it. Okay,
Mm.
you really need to avoid those failures caused by all sorts of things: bad equipment, shipping, environment. You need high grade, like carrier class, really, fiber optic um, to instruments to test and connect these drones.
And do you get that fiber optic, the spools and the equipment from China invariably?
Yeah, and the quality is, even with one batch, the quality can be all over the place. For the not just the fiber, but the electronics themselves. The spools we really have to make our own spools. That's why we need all those 3D printers. And that's needs to constantly be iterated to improve how the fiber comes out of the drone. Okay.
Yeah.
It plays a huge factor. If it comes out in this big tangled mess, then your 20 kilometers fiber optic drone now just became a 5 kilometer fiber optic drone. And it may just, because the optical
And
fibers,
you won't know until you've reached that limit, and then bang, you've lost,
it's out there. You can't see it,
Yeah.
and you can't do anything about it, and it just disappears. So the failure rate in some circumstances can be as high as 40%.
Really?
Okay? Yeah.
And that is that higher than a kind of analog drone?
Yeah, that's higher, much higher. And I'm not saying the analog drones, they have their own problems too, and I work on that stuff too. So getting that quality equipment to be able to do quality testing, quality connections, quality testing of the fiber and the media converters and all of that stuff before you fly, in the laboratory and right before you fly it in the and so the cost of that stuff is about $40,000, roughly speaking.
So what? How much stuff? What's?
Well, I can't go into
Oh,
exactly
right.
what
Yeah,
the
yeah,
equipment is,
yeah,
but
yeah. Like how many drones? Sorry, so $40,000 would be that's the equipment you need to then make all the stuff for drones.
yeah,
Or
thousands and
that's just,
thousands and thousands of drones that'll last, a couple
right.
of
Okay.
years,
Yeah.
basically, and even more than that, because their internal parts, like things that might need to get replaced within it, can be replaced, but
Yeah.
it's something you keep for a lifetime,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
So really worth its money.
Mm.
And it's what we need.
Mm.
So yeah, and then once we have that, our failure rate will go way down, and our kill rate will go way up, and then we will still do fundraisers to continue to get drones, but we will also get more and more drones coming from the brigade.
Mm.
So just really what I'm working on, and to answer your question, Jonathan, is building capacity. Okay. I'm not trying to do a lot of innovation, although we are in the laboratory. We're working on some pretty innovative stuff. But it's mainly about building capacity right now, and that's scaling is the most important thing.
So with the drones that you do get, so most of them come from central, with your particular unit, they come from central government sources,
and
they're
that's getting more and more true. I think it's getting more to be around like 50-50 for most units, as far as
right.
getting like donated drones versus government drones. And there were some issues with the the government drones with quality, especially with fiber optic, for a while. But I think those have started to be resolved. But ultimately, it's getting to be where the fundraised drones also might come from, like Viri, for example, is a good example of a really good quality drone manufacturer.
Yeah, I've
Vrarog.
heard them. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, um, and but none of them, I mean, they all have to supply multiple units, and so there's no one manufacturer that could completely supply like our battalion. We have to go with multiple
We
manufacturers, multiple sources.
Yeah, we've done fundraising through Jigaspor and Drone Lab. So this guy he makes drones for like the 47th, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And they make them kind of bespoke for what the unit wants,
Yeah.
because you get a lot of problems of donated drones or whatever drones get into
Yeah.
units, and then they have to take them apart again because
Yeah.
they got the wrong frequency, or they got the wrong
That's
this,
right.
or they got the wrong that.
Sure.
Whereas if you have units working very closely with their suppliers, then actually they get exactly what they need, which is
Right.
really
Yeah,
useful.
and
Then they
that
can
can be
guarantee
good.
the quality.
Absolutely. Quality is super important. But that is mainly what a drone lab does, though, is because by the time the drone comes from the manufacturer to the front line, the mission may have changed. the electronic warfare, the frequencies that you have to fly on will certainly have changed. And so you may have to, and the munitions that you need for the mission. So whatever the explosive device is going to be, are we being attacked by tanks or guys on motorbikes? What kind of grenades versus RPG 7 or whatever it is. So that has to be altered, and that is what a laboratory, that's what the drone lab does. You're not manufacturing drones, although some you can, and we might do that as needed. Like we can. It's not ideal to 3D print like drone frames and things. It's because it's better to use like the graphite, the carbon carbon fiber. That's what I meant. It's better to use the carbon fiber. But you can 3D print like drone frames. It's not the primary cost of a drone. If you're sitting there assembling drones when you should be testing, modifying, and troubleshooting the drones, all of that work should be done by somebody in a factory back behind the lines, ideally.
So your job, just to clarify my own head, your job is you've got this lab and you need to make sure that the work that is coming to that lab is being done at a significant enough scale quickly enough. So therefore you need the machines and the systems and the equipment.
That's my job right now. And as of right now, and then, I've got a bunch of engineers who I work with. I mean, I am myself as well, but now I'm more on this side of trying to get this equipment and get it planned out, the planning, the allocation, and getting the right people, the resources in place. So we have guys who are doing some of them are doing R&D, some of them are doing the stuff I described with modifying and testing the drones that come in to fit the mission. We also have, remember, being an infantry battalion, we also necessarily have to have reconnaissance drones. So those are mainly like DJI, that type of stuff. We're always looking for replacements for those. But
I think there's one Ukrainian company that makes DJI equivalents. I think DJI.
Shmavic. Yeah, it's called Shmavic.
It's called Shmavic. I love it.
It's called Shmavic. Yeah. But there are there's a couple of others now coming out with similar, but they all have either quality issues, battery issues, or their focus is very narrow in terms of their mission. Necessarily, there's nothing that quite matches, unfortunately. Even other drones like Autel is another one, and there's other ones that we do use, we can use, but unfortunately across the battlefield for reconnaissance, not Mavics, well, Mavics, yes, but just DJI in general is still, and so those things get broken, shot down, intercepted. We intercept them ourselves, even the Russian ones. Sometimes soldiers bring back ones that get shot down that they've found that are either ours or Russians. And we Frankenstein them back to life, basically. So there's a whole team. We have a whole team of engineers who just do that.
Yeah,
honestly,
wow. So how many drones? How many drones would a drone pilot use in a day? A single pilot. Depends what they're doing, though. I guess it depends whether they're doing FPVs or reconnaissance.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about FPVs, we could be doing 30 a day, roughly speaking. I would
say
from
one pilot.
Let's say from a team. I would say that the most drone FPV drone teams, that's a good number to hit. And if you think about it, right, you think about these these Mad Max cage mobiles that are coming across, and they're getting hit by like 70
Yeah. I did one video where there were 25 explosions on this
Yeah.
one, and that was including, I think, not just drones. I think there might have been, I don't know whether mines were involved and all sorts, and this bad boy's still going. You're like, bloody hell.
Yeah. So you've got like multiple drone units who might not even be communicating with each other necessarily. They might not even be in the same brigade, same battalion, brigade, whatever.
And you've seen that because we've seen drones, like multiple drones, like going for the same target previously in terms of, I think, interceptor drones I've seen, like, and you're like, it's clear that one's not talking to the other because they're like, screw you, you've just got to that before me type thing. Yeah.
Totally. Completely. Yeah. So, but you think about like, okay, so 70 drones to take out one of these
porcupine tanks.
One of these porcupines. Yeah, there you go. And no drone team is going to spend, blow its wad on just one system. So how many drone teams are in that area of however many square kilometers to send a portion of their daily allotment of drones to intercept this porcupine, and that's a little bit of math. Yeah, there you go. And that's a piece of math that the Russians definitely are calculating, because if one of these porcupines takes out half the capacity of all the drone teams in the area, that means there's less drones to take out the motorcycle guys or the
they're definitely
random
functionally
zombie
useful. There's otherwise they wouldn't be doing it.
It's really true. Really true. So yeah, that's really what we desperately need help with right now is getting that high end fiber optic equipment so that we can reduce the base failure rate of those fiber optic drones that come to us, and also we have drones that come to us, but we also have the capacity to make our own, not just the drones, but the spools. So
I was just going to ask, so do they come to you with the spools attached?
They sometimes, right. But most often not. At least right now. Most often what we're doing is we get drone. You can take any drone if it's of the appropriate size and power to be able to lift the additional weight.
Yeah.
Right. It's a lot of weight. It's unwieldy.
Yeah, because of course, the greater the range, the less the payload.
Makes the drone much more difficult to fly, and it's a skill. I mean, it's you can do it. The pilots learn. But it also figure that the flight characteristics of the drone change as it's flying. So it starts out heavy at the back, and as you fly,
of course,
all right,
not thought about that.
Yeah,
and can that mean that it can become critically unstable?
Yeah, for sure.
So you want the spool to spool out in a way that is uniform
and straight, and so there are things that are, I'm not going to talk about things that we can do to the fiber to make it spool differently and so that when it unspools, I mean, actually in transportation, if it gets knocked around too much, the fiber can just come loose from the spool, and then you just have this spaghetti mess inside.
Nightmare.
Oh yeah, for sure. So there's a lot of considerations. It seems like, it's the simple solution for the electronic warfare. No, adds a whole other pile of problems. And yes, maybe going forward, it's becoming more and more common, and it will be the solution. But I think it's always going to be, it's kind of like saying that fiber optic is going to replace regular radio-based FPVs is a lot like saying infantry is being replaced by drones. There's always going to be a role for both, on the battlefield. So, yeah.
What do you think the Ukrainians do better at the moment than the Russians, and the Russians do better than the Ukrainians with regard to drones?
Scale. The Russians have they just have they the cheapest. The Ukrainian phrase is shit and sticks.
Mm,
In America, we'd say duct tape and chicken wire.
mm.
Um, these Millennia drones
The Molnier, yeah.
that Ukraine doesn't quite have a fully scaled counter to yet.
Yeah.
These things are a literal pain in the butt.
So just the other day in Taganrog at the Beriev aviation site, where these two big planes were hit, apparently Molnier or Molinia drone facility was hit as well. So
Great.
the claim is, and that's obviously going to be super
But
useful.
that's great. But I feel like a Millennia drone manufacturing facility could probably be set up in the back of my car.
So they are, for those who don't know, I'm just trying to find some good images. Oh my goodness, that was the video I was telling you about of the new dev droid. Let me just grab that. This is exactly what I was saying there to the but anyway, I'm just going to find the drones I'm talking about. So these are kind of almost balsa wood drones that that are really cheap and cheerful, but they've been causing Ukraine a real headache for an awful long time because they are so cheap to make and they are so effective. These are kind of medium range. They don't have a huge warhead, but I guess they don't need to. It depends what they're setting out to do. But so
I hear them all the time over my head. Honestly, I mean, all the time. So and it's it's just roll of the dice every day. And they have a lot. Some of them even have fiber optic. So these Millennia drones have like a 40-kilometer spool of fiber, and they can have electric motors or gas motors. So the gas motor makes them loud. You can hear them coming in, but much longer range. So yeah, no problem.
I've just found exactly what I wanted to show you. So this is what one looks like. That's one carrying another drone. So they've actually started.
Yes, they're doing that now too.
Motherships. But these are very cheap and cheerful drones, but effective. Oh, there's another one as a mothership. So both of those. But sometimes you see like a gap between there, just literally just sticks of wood. And
sometimes the fiber optic spool is in that gap there.
Oh, is it? Right. Okay.
When they have that.
So those are really effective. So that's something the Russians do well. And in fact, I've been talking about this a lot, the kind of medium range drones. So the Ukrainians have got now the FP2 drone, but it's slightly bigger. In fact, it's a whole different kettle of fish. It's 200 kilometers, but it's 105 kilogram of warhead. So that is a big bit of kit. But thankfully, they're starting to use them on the front lines as well, which is something that I've been calling out for. In the absence of aviation, Ukraine needs to be using drone munitions that are substantive enough to sort of replace guided glide bombs. If they don't have enough of them, you need FP2 drones. But it's these Lancet drones. So the FP2 drone, the 5.2 drone, is a 105 kilogram warhead, whereas the Lancet, the old X-wing drones, they are like 4.5 kilograms, and those Molnier drones are similarly really small warheads, but they're really good for getting behind and hitting a piece of equipment that's back there. You don't need a 100 kilogram warhead. And that's what the Russians are doing well. And Ukrainians have been trying to catch up with their own kind of Ram 2X drones and all these different types of ones that you're seeing. But that's where you're saying the Russians have still got an advantage.
Yeah, I think so. I really think so. Yeah.
And where do the Ukrainians have an advantage, do you think?
I would say training. I mean, training. I think that I'm talking about Azov specifically now, but now this is kind of starting to be replicated. That I'm so happy to say that the word is training, because a year ago I would have said training is desperately what Ukraine needs. It still is, but they're starting to understand that training is so important. So this is the main difference that Azov specifically has from most other Ukrainian, military units.
You're answering one of my other questions. Brilliant. Carry on.
Yeah. So it's training. My my guys, the drone pilots, the infantry guys, heavy weapons, all those guys. Every day that they're not on position, except like maybe one day a week, maybe Sundays, or maybe they get some other odd day a week, maybe they're training. They're either usually it's one classroom thing and one field training, or like PT and a field training, and that it's integrated. So you've got infantry training, medical training. The drone guys are training alongside. We've even, the drone guys will fly for the infantry guys so they can drop, fake grenades on their heads or whatever. All sorts of stuff like that. And it's
I
constant.
guess training saves lives and kills more enemies. It's that simple. So if you can do it, do it.
Yeah. Now that wasn't my experience in my previous battalion, and I don't think it's the majority yet. The majority of the Ukrainian army. I do definitely understand that basic training in the Ukrainian army is still very bad, or at least very variable, depending on which basic training camp you get sent to. You might shoot 80 bullets the whole time. I remember a day in my previous battalion. The company, the Rota, got one day of medical training, and nobody had it before. And they told me not to come because I had already done it in the International Legion, which wasn't certified or anything, although I did have a couple of really good trainers. But in general, it's very uneven. But the more training, the more that Ukraine can do this and preserve, the average lifespan of a Russian soldier, I guess, is like 2 weeks or something. So the more Ukraine can preserve its soldiers and continue to train them, the better. Now, the classic line in the Ukrainian army, not in Azov, right, is we can't train because we don't have any bullets, right? And I literally heard this out of Ukrainians' mouth. We can't train because we don't have any bullets. And the commander says, "You don't know how to shoot. Why would I give you bullets?"
Classic circular argument. Yeah.
Oh my God! So it was like pulling teeth in my previous battalion to get that kind of training, like go out and shooting at the range or something. Now that said, they were doing a lot of, like, if you were in a drone unit, you'd be trained on that one specific drone, and you'd get constant training, and so the unit gets better and better and better at that. If you don't know how to shoot your gun, then if your drone unit gets attacked, by these infiltrating Russians who are going all over, miles and miles past the zero line. Azov trains everybody as an infantryman first.
Right.
So, and this has happened where, a couple of Russians we got past all the defensive lines, and now we've come up against the weak, puny little drone guys.
Yeah.
And they are no longer among the living. Let's put it
Speaking of guys, like, are there many drone females in the drone units?
There are not in Azov yet, although that is changing, as I understand. It's
because it's one of those things where you got desperate needs for boots on the ground, and to kind of cut yourself off from 50% of the population is obviously, there are different, I've long talked about needing to be quite creative, which is, a mobile fire defense crew operating off with a Browning off the back of an SUV around Kiev. Like, well, you can get amputees to do that. You can get old men and women to, if you're just driving the truck around, whoever's doing the driving, you just need to be able to drive a truck, right? And the guy on the back's doing the shooting. So
it depends on what kind of drone activity you're talking about. So there are different kinds, and this is something I I'm actually having a discussion within my battalion. Drones are not just one thing. Okay, they're not just these guys flying Mavics in a hole in the ground. Okay, there might be 4 guys in a truck 20 kilometers back, who are launching fixed wing drones. There's interceptor teams, mobile interceptor teams, all kinds of things like this. Okay. It's really gone from black and white, either drones or not drones. Now it's like color television. Okay, and so like our drone guys, our drone teams, they might go out to a position, and sometimes they'll be out there a week, 2 weeks, a month, because remember, Azov's job, right, is to go into the most difficult places deep in, and it's an assault infantry brigade originally, so it's counterattacking the Russians, so that other units potentially can pull back and be relieved. You have to give them that breathing space, so other non-Azov units can come back and
so they'd still be needing to be supplied, obviously, with new drones and whatnot and equipment. While
this is a big thing. This is the biggest challenge that we face, and I'm helping to solve now, which is our guys, both infantry and drone guys, get stuck in these crazy front line. If you've looked at the front lines, it's like a squiggly mass of spaghetti.
It's like your pockets, and
when you're stuck out there for a month, you run out of water. I mean, forget about taking a shower, okay? Just forget about that for a second. I'm talking about just water to drink, and you go a few days without water, you're going to be combat ineffective very quickly. So this is a big thing that I deal with drones, is how are we going to get water, MREs, blood, sometimes medical supplies to our units, and that's a big thing that drones are doing now, is being the primary logistical supply. So we're working on that too.
So you probably got this situation where a drone unit is supplying a drone unit that is supplying the front line. That's just everyone's
Yeah, exactly. With this spongy sort of gray zone that the front line has become. That's exactly right.
So going back to the previous point, you were saying that training is obviously not obviously, is potentially an area where the Ukrainians are doing better, particularly in your unit, with regard to the Russians, and that then would translate, one assumes, in the drone context, to better pilots who are just more. I remember listening to or reading some Andrew Perpetua analysis where he was saying, look, everyone talks about Rubicon being the bee's knees with regard to Russia, but actually their pilots aren't that good. They just get more kit than other Russian units, and actually the implication was the Ukrainian units are literally better pilots.
The word Rubicon has taken on a big, and they were a really good small group of, I don't know, like a 60, like a company size. Okay, and then Russia said, okay, we're going to scale this company. So they took like the 6. They took Rubicon and expanded it into, I believe, 6 different groups, 6 different units, to try and replicate what Rubicon was doing. And so now it's like 150 guys, and then more and more they're adding. And as they have proved unable to scale that system, the training, whatever they were doing, and so the quality has been diluted, essentially. And the thing with Ukraine and Ukrainians is, the longer you live, the more you learn, and that I think that this war is going to the defender. I mean, just because Russia's got to run out of people sometime.
I mean, one of my worries, to talk about, and actually you reminded me of this earlier when you mentioned the number of different nationalities operating in the Azov International unit there, your brigade, or your battalion. So I've been worrying recently and warning that Russia has this ability to just steal people, co-opt people, press gang people, blackmail people into fighting for them from all around the world. And you're hearing about these Kenyans that have been captured en masse up in Vovchansk, and then just they are able to get, because they are struggling to get their own population to sign up, that they're replacing them with just randos from around the world that they don't have to pay compensation to. They don't have to worry their family are upset that they're dead, because who gives a crap? They're over in Cuba or Colombia or wherever. And so while the Ukrainians do have decent international components, the Russians seem to be able to, and they're probably not nearly as good or well trained, but actually for the Russians, they don't care. It's boots on the ground, send them in. Not all the time, but oftentimes. And I do worry that there is an asymmetry where Russia has the advantage of being able to just nefariously get people from all over the shop.
Well, this is why taking out all those oil refineries is so important, because how are they able to do that, right? It's by paying them money.
Yeah.
And it's a question of motivation, right? So we are not motivated by money. We could almost work any job on the face of the earth and make more money. I mean, yes, okay, you can make up to like maybe like $3,000 a month if you are actually on the front line for the entirety of that month. That means you're not taking a shower. You're getting an MRE a day if you're lucky. Nobody does that. It's very rare. If it might happen once to a soldier. So, we're not. It's more like 500 to 1,000 a month, in that kind of a range, and maybe two grand if you're really close to the front line. And sure, we get less people, but they're motivated, most of them, for the right reasons, and that makes them more effective fighters in the long run.
Yeah. So so the advantage hopefully is that you have better pilots, as we were saying, but also like that. I don't know whether this has changed from the different stages of war, but I was under the impression that now the Ukrainians have really scaled up the production and procurement, and you've got the volunteer sector as well, that there is a greater scale of FPV drones in general, although then the Russians react to this by saying, right, we're going to scale up ourselves. So, but is it still the case that you think Ukraine is flying more drones than the Russians? And I talk FPV drones, I'm talking real frontline drones here.
I think it's neck and neck.
Right. Yeah.
To be honest, I
That
think
would
it's neck and
surprise.
neck.
Yeah.
Really. And sometimes drones are flying back and forth, and the guys on the ground are like, they don't know whose drone is which, and they've got multiple drones flying over your head in different directions at the same time. So, which ones do you shoot down?
Yeah, and then you're thinking, as a drone operator, you're probably thinking, well, this is a spongy area. Unless you've really got a very clear yellow, blue, white, red armband on, which isn't always the case. You're thinking, do I hit them? And then you hit them, and you're like, well, I've got no idea if they were.
Listen, if they're walking towards you, and you probably are going to hit them.
But you hope that there's someone not walking back to get supplies, right? You're like,
this is a problem. It's a real problem, and like as I said earlier, communications is the biggest problem in the Ukrainian army, in the Ukrainian armed forces.
But they've got the advantage of at least having a Delta system, which at least gives them some kind of,
oh my God, it's huge. I don't know what the Russians are using, or how they manage their intelligence and targeting and things. I don't know, but yeah, Delta is amazing, and the real secret hero of the war, arguably. Of many, of course, of many. Yeah.
Just a few more questions then. So what have you seen evolve recently in terms of drone tech? What since you've been maybe with Azov? I don't know what's been a significant improvement, if they have, or have there not been any? I don't know.
A big controversy, is integration of of drones with infantry. And how that's going to happen. That means ground drones and flying drones.
Right.
That's something that was still will reveal itself, and innovation is ongoing. But I think that over the next 6 months to a year, we're going to start to see those tactics develop, and come to some maturity. Not necessarily from Azov, I would like to say. Who knows what will
Actually,
come out of it.
UGVs in general, I think we're seeing so many more of them that I think that's been a growth domain, hasn't it? And as you then say, well, it's one thing having them, but you've got to integrate them. How do you integrate them? How do you use these things in a kind of proper combined arms like sense? Interesting.
Yeah. And there are things. There's If you go to like the Brave One conference or one of these tech conferences, you just start. There's so many things floating around that could happen, that could be developed, that could come to fruition. Which one of them is going to be the leader? I don't know. I know that the Russians recently had an effort over the last 6 months, really since maybe 8 months, to push. And I know Ukraine is doing this as well, to push the drone operators further back from the zero line. Okay. In various ways, using basically
Repeaters.
the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, these Shaheeds that are flying around Ukraine, they are being piloted.
Yeah, I reported this morning. Sorry, I reported that there was one that was found with the camera and the mesh and blah blah blah, and now they're reporting that they're being used potentially to take out planes and helicopters. So that they're which are the very things coming to shoot these things down, and then they can, because they're basically glorified FPV drones, they can just go
and this has to do with what they're using actually is the Ukrainian cellular network. Okay, which is better. I would argue the best that I've experienced in the world. Honestly, I mean, for the price for what you pay, I mean, I pay like 480 grivnas, which is like, I don't know, like $8 a month for unlimited internet, 40 megabit speed. Like I can live stream, everything. And so that it's amazing, right? So all you got to do is get a SIM card from Ukraine, very easy to do, right? And put it in your drone, and boom, you have you can. There's a delay that happens obviously across the network, but it's milliseconds, potentially, depending on where you are. So that's much more difficult to do in Russia because of the way Russian cellular network infrastructure is set up.
So shoddy and it's such a big country that you'll just go into a blind patch and then lost the drone.
And there's not a lot of universal cellular networks that cover the whole territory.
Right.
It's a lot like in the early 2000s in America, where you travel from one place to another, and maybe you had AT&T, but it didn't have coverage everywhere, so you had to also sign up with another one. And so there are a lot of these local or regional cellular providers, maybe because people just don't move around a lot. I don't know. But so then, and it's very difficult to get those SIMs. Okay. Especially from like the occupied territories, for example. So, how many SIMs are you going to have on your drone, to be able to fly across the country and still control it? It's a much bigger challenge. But the flip side of that is the potential, I say, for Ukraine to be able to have a guy sit on a sofa in Kyiv and control a drone that's flying on the zero line of the battlefield, still within Ukraine's internet infrastructure, is much greater. Ukraine could be using that to its advantage, and that's a big part of what I hope to be able to work on in the future.
And what about AI? Have you come across any AI usage?
Yes. We have AI drone. Look, my AI is just a buzzword right now. Okay, it's a buzzword for something that's been around for 15 years, which is just pixel identification. It's not ChatGPT, okay, on these drones.
So it's not going to give you a metadata analysis of the latest scientific.
This is what I'm talking about. Okay, matching pixels. Okay, and some of them do a better job than others. And I don't mean my apologies to Fourth Law. Okay, but it's a lot of hype right now. Okay. And it's just a fun word to say that people like to say it, just like back in like 1995, everybody was obsessed with the word hard drive,
Y2K.
Well, yeah, no idea what it means, no idea what actually it means. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, these targeting systems, okay, it makes the drone more expensive. You got at least an extra chip or two on the drone. You have to have usually better camera on the drone, better, uh, how do I say it? Yeah, better control frequency, better communications. That's what I meant to say. But there's a lot of potential. I mean, there's the potential to operate AI in different ways, especially when we're combining this with fiber optics. So I have people who are actively doing research on this for me. And it could be a thing. Imagine if you could have Chat GPT on your drone, what that would do. Okay, it is a possibility. I don't think it's a possibility, tomorrow, in a scaled battlefield way, but in a year we might be talking about it.
Okay, so let's select my questions. I guess. What do I most want to know now? Well, I don't know if you can answer this, to be honest, with OPSEC and whatnot, and knowing that you are somewhere vaguely in the east, which covers most of the front line, right?
Yeah.
There are obviously worries about Haleakala. There are. I was reporting this morning that, do you know what? The Ukrainians have done minor miracles in Pokrovsk, and I know some people might criticize Sersky for being a bit Soviet and not holding on to places too long, but actually you got to fight somewhere.
I think they're doing it the right way this time, actually,
Yeah.
in Pokrovsk. I think I'm not hearing about a lot of Ukrainian deaths, whereas like Bakhmut was a meat grinder. I think they're sending in specially trained special forces. A lot of these Ukraine's been making a big deal about these setting up assault brigades. They're basically modeled on Azov, essentially. And I think they're sending them in to these places. And I can't tell you where my guys are, but we're usually in the worst of it. So
yeah. So being Azov, I guess. So it is on the one hand, the impression must be insane, but on the other hand, Kupiansk is still holding, Pokrovsk is still holding, which means that's the key, arguably, although you got Konstantinivka as well, and Chasiv Yar, but that's the key then to Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, Druzhkivka, those big sort of what are called the fortress cities. But then the idea that they would quickly capitulate would be ridiculous, because they've got these big underground factories, a bit like the Avostal in Mariupol. So these big like Soviet era industrial towns, and so the idea that the Donbass would just quickly capitulate, even if Pokrovsk fell, it is ridiculous. But then you've got the Americans, and I know you can't sort of talk about this stuff, but from my point of view, you then got the Americans saying that, hey, maybe you should concede this territory for this, and you're like, hang on, like the Russians aren't taking that anytime soon, and they're not particularly able to take that anytime soon. Is that broadly correct? Is your analysis of the front line? Well, give me, for what you can say, your broad analysis of what's going on.
First of all, this war is not going to end soon. Okay, I'll eat my hat if it ends in the next year. Okay,
that's interesting. Right.
Yeah. All right. I think we got 2 years, honestly.
I don't know if you're able to say why you think that, or whether that starts going into areas of politics.
No. That's my own personal, like if you made me bet, but just looking at resources, and the geopolitical thing, and politics that I can't talk about. That's the one thing I promised I wouldn't talk about, is politics. I think, but Ukraine will hold. And Pokrovsk, I think they're probably going to go in there, push the Russians back, let that pocket pull out in an orderly manner, and then let and then let the Russians fill in the gap while attriting them as much as possible.
Yeah.
And Heliopolis, by the way, do you know anything about the history of Heliopolis? It's a
No.
crazy name for a city, by the way. I don't even remember what it means, but look up when you get a chance, and to the viewers who are still watching, look up when you get a chance, Nestor Makhno. Okay. Heliopolis was the center of the only anarchist democratic state in the world by some measures. So we're talking about in the time of the Ukrainian Civil War and the Red Army takeover of Ukraine. We're talking about 1917 to like 1923. Okay, that whole area, the whole territory of the Donbass was an anarchist free state, and Heliopolis was the center of it. So if you look up Nestor Makhno, Makhno is spelled Makhno. Just read the Wikipedia of the history of that area, and it's quite fascinating, really truly amazing. The Ukraine that could have been and perhaps yet shall be, I would say. People will argue with me about that, but there you are. I don't think Heliopolis is next, though. I think the orcs can really only do this on like two areas, I would say, at one time. So they could be like Pokrovsk and Volchansk, or Pokrovsk and Konstantinivka. Okay, so the question is, what city is going to be the next Pokrovsk? Okay, maybe it's gonna be Heliopolis, maybe it's gonna be Konstantinivka. But think how long it's taken. A year and a half, more than a year and a half, and Pokrovsk might hang on for another 6 months. Okay, so 2 years. I mean, think how long it took them to take Bakhmut. It's just grinding them down, while at the same time, Ukraine is hitting them in the back in those oil refineries, those oil producing areas, to take away that cash cow. And that is, I would argue, the strategy that's going to win. And on the battlefield, the thing that we want to get to, that I think Ukraine needs to get to, is true combined arms warfare with drones. And that's what I hope to help achieve.
Well, I mean, I was, looking on my hits and losses video this morning, and I haven't looked at what the latest emergent data is coming out, but there was a drone bomber map. This is one of the maps of one of the mappers that looks at the routes of all the drones going into Russia at night, and last night's looked really intense. Now, we don't often hear about the success of Ukrainian drones till sometimes days after, in terms of striking deep into Russia. But if they can replicate those sorts of maps, if indeed it is true, and they were striking as intensely as they were last night. Here it is. Just going to show you what I mean. Like, that's an incredibly dense set of each of those arrows, each of those individual drones, like medium range FP1, FP2s, maybe jet drones as well. So that is going towards Saratov, Engels. That's Crimea. That's Novorossiysk. If they can replicate that, like, every night, like, it's all about scale. Like, I keep saying, people talk about game changers, and I say virtually every weapon that people discuss whether they are or aren't a game changer, and say no, they're not a game changer, every one of those is a game changer. It's all about scale. Like, FP2s are game changers, FP1s are game changers, flamingos are game changers. If you had 1,000 flamingos to send a night fight, you would change the game. Like, that game is suddenly changed.
What's funny is if you go back to that map, and when you first showed it, I am so used to seeing maps of Shaheds attacking Ukraine. And at first I thought, wait, you have the map upside down or inside out?
The arrows are going the wrong way.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on here? It's interesting. that as I'm more kind of my nose to the grindstone in this war, working, in the laboratory and with my soldiers, and I necessarily have become less and less
Mm,
aware of the
mm,
bigger picture, the broader picture. Um, I think, when I was a little bit back from it, and I had more awareness, and
I
now
bet. Yeah.
now I sometimes like that was I knew that was happening in general. I just hadn't
Yeah.
seen that particular map yet,
But I mean,
so
that's not every night. But like, what you want is that to happen every night. It's all about scale, like you say. For you guys, it's scale of soldiers, scale of operators, scale of drones, scale of It's obviously yeah, there's quality, but quantity has its own quality. And you start sending in like amounts of drones that the other side can't deal with. I mean, that's the thing with Shaheds, is like the scale of the Shaheds that Ukraine can't deal with. Okay, they're starting to come up with interceptor drones, but again, it's a work in progress, and you need
well, this is where Russia's size actually becomes its disadvantage, right? Because it's much more difficult to cover all of that
yeah,
territory with air defense. I mean, I know how difficult it is to cover the Ukrainian territory with air defense
yeah.
properly. It's almost impossible. But the Russia's job is almost Herculean. So now that Ukraine has kind of unlocked this little trick, I think that we're really exposing the Russia's weakness
Mm.
in this war. That very size, everybody looks at the map and says, "Oh my God, Russia's so much bigger."
But
It's a bigger target,
my
you know.
comeback to that is that for both sides, all they really need to do, well, actually, Ukraine are at a disadvantage here because Russia can send stuff over the Black Sea and over
Mm,
Belarus, arguably. But realistically, Russia, all they need to do is line all their air defenses along the border or just back from the border. And that's what happens is once you punch through that air defense like ring,
yeah.
then you're not going to have surface to air missile systems next to the Novokubiashevsk oil refinery, for example.
Whereas Ukraine uh, has a air defense in depth.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's it. Yeah,
and it's
good.
chaotic and sporadic and all
Yeah,
over the place, but that's actually part of the advantage. You
yeah.
know.
Trying to guess
Um,
where they are.
yeah, yeah.
So okay, so as we kind of meander to the end, James,
Hmm.
what are you most hopeful for and most worried about with regard to Ukraine and the war?
Yeah. So I'm absolutely hope. It's not hope. It's a knowledge. It's absolute knowledge. I know that Ukraine is going to win. Okay, inevitably, just a matter of time, and we just got to keep plugging away. And I wake up every morning and say, "I'm gonna quit. I can't do this anymore." And somehow, I managed to pull my big boy pants on and
Good
get
on you,
on with
mate.
my day. And every single Ukrainian is doing that every single day, in the army or not. You know, and
Mm,
that resilience, I
mm,
think, and innovation, these two
mhm.
things are going to, when Ukraine wins, it's going to be like a borderline superpower. You're going to have like um the Silicon Valley of drones, and all the things that drones are going to do, things in the future that it don't involve killing people, that we can't even think about, but they will all have started here in Ukraine. It's going to be the center for that. And the recent stuff going on with like Anduril, where they just
Yeah.
oh, we're the smartest drone company in the world, and they've crashed a bunch of their stuff, and the Ukrainians all laughed. uh you know I mean, that's that the script is being flipped, where 2 years ago, even a year ago, Ukraine was going, oh, we need training, we need help, we need defense stuff. And the script is being flipped now. Ukraine is helping NATO just as
Yeah.
much,
Yeah.
you know
And you
really.
think they're on the cusp of deploying their own ballistic missiles, which must be a record time for R&D and production. Like normally those kinds of things,
10,
and yeah, they're
10
going to be
years,
yeah,
25
yeah,
years.
yeah, they're going to be cheap and cheerful, and they're not going to have the circle error probable of the best in the world. But you get what you pay for. But my goodness, they are innovating quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. And as far as what I'm the most afraid of, honestly, it's that you guys watching this, I don't think that your viewers are going to forget about Ukraine, but
Mm,
you all have friends and family who
mm,
don't know their Ukraine from their rat's ass,
mm.
and don't think about it on a daily basis, and don't even understand why it's important, why it's the linchpin of freedom and democracy for the whole rest of the world. Which I'm sure most of the viewers here know. Or there's probably some people watching right now that still think that's some sort of racist symbol.
Mm.
Which, by the way, you know what this I found out now that I'm actually in Azov. Do you know this is not a rune at all? By the way, it's not a rune. It's the English letter I and the English letter N, and it stands for the idea of a nation. That's it. Just like the idea of a nation. Hey, how about we have a nation? That's a good idea, isn't it? That's all it
Yeah.
is. It was invented in like 1992. But so my fear of people getting sucked in by the propaganda
Yeah.
and all the different conspiracy theories and stories, to a
Yeah.
lot of it coming out of Russia, 90% of it coming out of Russia, that diffuses people so they're confused, so they can't see the truth. Okay. But the truth. I know the truth. You
Political
viewers know the truth.
political fatigue, moral fatigue. Everyone has their lives to get on with, but I'm still here. We're still here. You are definitely still there in person, and this is certainly my job, is to keep reporting this in a way that it still engages people to care enough to both support Ukraine, but also, like you say, to shout to their family members. Talk about it around the water cooler. Because
Thanksgiving.
it's important. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and making that connection, and that's why I'm here, sticking my neck out, putting my face and my name, my real name,
Mm,
out there,
mm.
because I feel like it's that important, for people to be able to make that connection.
Hats off to you for so doing. Well, look, mate, this has been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything else that you want to mention? Is there
Yeah,
any other like
please,
nuggets?
if you're still watching this, go to my site. It's whyukraine.com. There's a link there. You just click it where it says support Azov International Battalion, and please help me set up this fiber optic drone lab. It says click here to support. Just click on the words. No,
Oh,
go back.
yeah.
Click on the words that says click here. There we go.
Yeah.
And it takes you to this. Okay. And yes, this is officially Azov. It's not my website. Okay. It's just a link from my website. And Jonathan, if you want to share that long, like buy.stripe.com / blah blah blah, you can share that instead of my website directly. Whatever is fine. And that will help us be more effective in saving democracy for the world. Yeah.
You can't say fairer than that, mate. Well, look, well done to you. Awesome that you have got your position in the Azov International Battalion there. That's fantastic. I know that was something you were super keen on doing. You were saying, look, this is what I'm hoping, but you can't tell anyone. And you finally got there, mate. So that is absolutely fabulous. And well done for doing everything that you are doing.
Yeah.
As I say, aside from the appeal there, and please, guys, if you do have any spare spondoolies, that's as good a place to any to put it. Is there anything else you felt we haven't mentioned, or something you're like, oh, I wanted to mention this, I wanted to say
Well,
that?
yeah, no, I mean, I hope we get to come on here next time, and I'm sure your
Mm,
viewers will have lots of comments about, Azov and the history of Azov and all that sort of stuff.
mm,
And I've taken the time to learn that sort of thing. We can certainly talk about that.
mm,
I'd also like to make mention that you're not allowed to wear earrings in Azov. It's not regulation,
mhm,
especially on the battlefield or on the range. I guess you can, like, technically I'm allowed to, but these are actually not earrings. These are cable tie downs that I use to tie down, like, antenna wires. That you can buy these at, like, we have Epicenter or Home Depot in America.
yeah.
It's in case
Nice.
anybody was wondering. I'm sure viewers will comment. They always comment on the funniest things, like my haircut or just something random like that. So
It's funny how, like, in Ukraine, and this is one of my famous long goodbyes as I've started saying goodbye, and then I'm like, oh, one more thing to talk about. But when you look at the Ukrainian armed forces, it's a right mismatch of like what people look like, and like 90% of Ukrainian soldiers would never be allowed to look like that in the British armed forces.
oh yeah,
Like,
no, this thing,
100%. They're like
come on.
funky beards and like plaits and this and that, and I'm like, no way. And it's just like,
But
yeah, whatever.
it's all about what's effective versus the symbol of a thing versus the thing, and people get confused about that. And I would even argue that our Western militaries have gotten confused about what makes a combat effective soldier. Is a beard, tattoos? What does that do? That goes back to some like 17th century concept of military doctrine or something. It doesn't have anything to do with today, I don't think. So yeah, I think that I'm really, really happy to be in Azov, and I'm enjoying myself tremendously. And it's hard work every single day for every one of us. And if you want to support that, you're a hero too, basically.
Yeah, well said to all of those who do support Ukraine in any which way that you all do. So, well, look, let's not leave it so long this time. I mean, I presume you're not just applying for yet another unit in Ukraine.
No, I'm sticking with this one. It's like I say about my wife. I'm on my last wife.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Well, look, let's. I've got another 7 or 8 planned.
Sure.
I've got no. Honestly, Helen, I haven't. That's a joke. It's a joke. Please don't kill me.
You think she's watching this far in? Come on.
Is she bugger? Right. So, anywho, let's do this again, mate.
Great.
And if you can swing it with the powers that be, whether it's a live or a pre-record like this, whatever, it's just great to talk to you. So yeah, nice one.
Yeah, awesome.
And as I should say, Slava Ukraini, my friend.
Heroam Slava. Do pobачення, everybody.
Yeah, indeed. Well, look, stay on the line, mate, and I'm going to end the recording. Toodle pips, everybody.